Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Welcome to another edition of The Bullet. Joining me today in an unusual appearance on a weekday slot, Beth Alcazar. Beth is, of course, one of the people at USCCA, one of their main people who does a lot of the writing and does some training for them. Beth, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, especially during a weekday when things are always crazy busy. But hey, I've got dinner taken care of. It's hopefully going to be done by the time we're done, and that's smooth sailing as far as I'm concerned.
Very cool. Well, as you say, it is a little bit of a busy day today. We've got a lot of stuff to cover, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get right into it. One thing that happened yesterday, just about as we were going to air, we did mention it a little bit, didn't go deep into depth on it. Georgia yesterday made half of the states that are now permitless carry. 25 states now do not require a permit for you to conceal your firearm on you.
That's like the most exciting news out there, people. You should be just celebrating in the streets as far as I'm concerned. I mean, we're halfway there, right? Isn't there a song about that? We should own that. Especially since, again, I have to mention Alabama is now one of those 25. We came in not too far before Georgia here did. I guess it was a couple slots ahead. And I'm just excited to see all of my southern neighbors basically almost everywhere you look around Alabama, we've got states that are now permitless. So Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, we got Tennessee, Texas. Now we're just waiting on Louisiana and Florida. Let's roll the dice, see what happens.
Yeah, Florida, we're looking squarely at you. It's, Louisiana. Speaking of Louisiana, there's a bill in Louisiana for, I think, the third or fourth year in a row. Louisiana is toying around with bringing permitless carry there to that state. And the story I have was off of WWL-TV, WWL-TV, I'm sorry. And I want to pull a quote off this story. St. John Parish Sheriff Mike Tigray told WWL-TV he wants gun owners to be properly trained and certified. Quote, "There's a fascination with guns now with young people," Tigray said. "Now we're just going to open the doors for everybody to carry a gun. How are my officers going to know who's carrying legally and illegally? How do I train for that?" Well, I'm going to tell you, Sheriff Tigray, you could reach out now St. John Parish is between New Orleans and then it's just west of New Orleans. It's a fairly populated area. They could reach out to Phoenix PD. Phoenix got constitutional carry in 2010. It's larger than your parish, a much more metropolitan area. They've been dealing with it now for 12 years. You could reach out. They've got lots of experience. They'd be happy to help you out, I'm sure. You could reach out to Dallas, also more populated. They've been dealing with it for a year. Guess what? If you I'm not a policeman. I don't play one on TV, and I did not stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. If you treat everybody as if they're carrying, your officers will be safer. They won't be surprised. And good people are good people, bad people are bad people. Just treat everybody as if they're carrying.
I find it interesting that he's saying that, he's a little, I guess, either scared or upset or frustrated by, quote unquote, young people's fascination with guns. If you have young people that are running around with firearms, that shouldn't be happening. So if you're already seeing that in Louisiana or anywhere else, that's a problem. And it looks like we need some training, and it looks like we really need to get on top of that, because even if young people are fascinated with guns, they're not allowed to own them. They're not allowed to carry them. So why don't we get that straightened out first? As far as people, I mean, yeah, wouldn't it be great for some cross-departmental support, from all these other states who have gone through the process and hopefully aren't going to see anything major or crazy that they could share with Louisiana. But I think, you said it, Paul. Bad guys are bad guys. Good guys are good guys. It really doesn't matter what laws are on the books. The criminals are going to do whatever they want to do under the circumstances. Yeah. So the only people they're frightened of right now apparently are the law-abiding, and I find that rather offensive, because I'm here to protect myself and my family, and I'm certainly not going to get in the way of law enforcement. I want to support you guys and let you guys do your jobs. So that argument, it really bothers me, and I would love to hear what listeners out there think about that. We keep hearing that argument, or we keep hearing that statement over and over. Law enforcement being scared, or maybe not scared, that's probably not the appropriate word, but law enforcement feeling pressured that now everyone's going to have a gun.
Well, yeah. And the fact is, look, everybody should have a gun. And well, let me walk that back a little bit. Everybody who wants to have a gun should have a gun. Not everybody should have a gun. If you're absolutely scared of them, if you think you're going to do something bad if you carry a gun, then you probably shouldn't have a gun. But everybody that wants one should be able to have one.
And where are the law enforcement officers out there? Where are the ones that are saying, hey, I love knowing that responsibly armed citizens are there that might be able to participate in a situation, de-escalate a situation, provide some kind of protection for their own cover or for their own family or for whatever is going on. Where are those law enforcement officers? Let's quote them and let's get them involved in some of these articles, because for some reason, who knows why, hint, hint, the anti-gun crowd are choosing folks in law enforcement that are opposed to, citizens being responsibly armed.
Well, and honestly, I believe the reason that is because they're looking for people who agree with them, meaning the legacy media. They're looking for people who disagree so they can bolster their opinion. I do want to get a couple of comments in here. George Geller says, Paul saying an armed society has polite police. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously that the more a society is armed, the less a police service is required. So yeah. And the reason behind that is because if criminals are wandering around thinking, ooh, anybody, any good guy, any potential prey or a potential victim might actually be armed now, I better back off and I better think twice. So you would think that, just like you said, it's across the board a better option for the good guys to be armed without any additional restrictions or infringements or hoops to jump through or whatever else these local and state governments can come up with. Yeah, absolutely. And Charlie Chambers, love this one. Print guns, not money. Vote every Democrat and Rhino out of office. Join SAF.org. Absolutely. I love that. Print guns, not money. Love that. Let me jump off. I want to get one more. We could spend a lot of time on this one, Beth. There's a new survey out, and I got this one off of AmmoLand. New survey from the National Opinion Research Center from the University of Chicago. I was not expecting it to come from University of Chicago. This one, a clear majority of first-time gun buyers, nearly 70%, believe concealed carry should be expanded. This majority also wants to shorten unconstitutional waiting periods to legally buy a gun and supports qualified teachers being able to conceal carry in order to protect their students. And this is, in the same study, it shows that new gun owners are becoming increasingly diverse, that people, old white guys like me are a minority of new gun owners, that women and ethnic minorities are becoming the majority of new gun owners. I think that is nothing but fantastic news.
Well, and Paul, it almost sounds like the general public is starting to have a return to common sense here. I mean, people are buying guns. They're realizing that guns are very valuable and sometimes necessary for protection of home and family. We've got millions of new gun owners entering our community, upwards of, what was the last? It said 14 million new gun owners. And those new gun owners are now realizing what some of our older or original gun owners have been fighting for so long. They now realize why all of these rules and regulations and restrictions are so painful, because it's keeping good people from access to a tool that they shouldn't have to pay for, they shouldn't have to fight for. It's their civil right. So all these millions of new gun owners could potentially be assisting us with a lot of that good stuff on this kind of a survey. I mean, I'm shocked, amazed, and super excited to see that that's happening.
One thing I hope is new gun owners turn into new voters. I'm wonderfully amazed to see they're coming. I'm giddy beyond belief. I just hope that they vote as well as come and join us in gun ownership. I'm glad to see you're here. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad to see you here. Now, please come vote with us.
Yes, and pay attention to who is doing the voting in your area and what they're saying and what their history is, and stay on it. I know that a lot of the representatives here in Alabama will, in a couple of words or a phrase or a statement say, yes, we're pro-gun and we're excited about supporting all of you who are also pro-gun. And then they'll say something else, or they'll go back on their word, or they won't vote the way they said they would. Pay attention to those things, folks. We need you desperately. And that can mean even being a positive influence with whoever your representatives might currently be. It doesn't have to be a brand new person, but it definitely could be someone already there that just needs to hear your unique voice, especially all of our new folks who are more diverse than, like Paul just said. It's not the same gun owner that we've been used to for the past several decades. It's everybody from every walk of life and every representation now.
And I didn't put this in show notes, Beth. You said it, and it just kind of it sparked something in my brain, and so I pulled it up real quick just now. One of my bosses at SAF, Dave Workman, wrote this the other day, or yesterday, and I just brought it up again because I read it and I thought it was just so apropos. Joe Biden, in his talk, and I'm going to have to go in, dig in, and find this and bring it up as a clip that I can pop up every once in a while. During Monday's Rose Garden presser, he told the audience, "This is going to sound bizarre. I support the Second Amendment." Those words came out of Joe Biden's mouth. That this is just like every politician who doesn't support the Second Amendment. They will say, "I support the Second Amendment, but," and just shortly after that, he goes, "We need to ban assault weapons. We need to repeal the protection of commerce." My brain is not working right now. The Federal Protection of Commerce in Arms Act. He wants to go for all kinds of gun control, but he supports the Second Amendment, he says. So, yeah, there's a lot of politicians that say they support the Second Amendment, Joe Biden included. They can say it all they want. It's just lip service.
Absolutely. We have to be even more careful to recognize that as gun owners. And for those of us, again, who have been in this industry or who have been part of this community for a while now, we need to share those truths with our new gun owners and our new responsibly armed Americans who are hopefully going to be right alongside with us. They're going to see these different laws for what they are. They're going to see how they block good people from being able to protect themselves. They're going to see through the fact that someone can say, I support the Second Amendment, but let's add this law and this ban and this restriction, and hopefully they'll be able to make wise decisions from that point on. But we got to continue to help them see it and keep all the rest of the politics out of it. Give them all the straight facts on gun, can make sure they continue to listen to us and stick with us. Once you throw out all the other politics, it's very easy for someone to stop listening, because we might not agree on everything, but it's awesome when we can be unified in our agreement that life is worth protecting.
Absolutely. And I consider myself, I'm a registered Republican. I consider myself more of a libertarian. If there were a working libertarian party, I'd be a part of it. There's really not. Yep. I'll say this. I am absolutely positively a single issue voter. If you are pro-gun and you can prove to me you're pro-gun, I'll vote for you, because if you are pro-gun, you are pro-individual, and you're going to be for me in a lot more things than just guns. So if you're pro-gun, I'm going to go for you a lot more often than if you are, low taxes and a lot of other things, but you don't necessarily like to give me the full freedom for firearms.
I love how you said that, Paul, that you're pro-individual if you're pro-gun. I mean, that speaks volumes. And you can also apply that to minority groups, because if you're pro-gun, you're pro-civil rights. If you're pro-gun, you're pro-women's rights. And to be able to articulate that and have those discussions with representatives sometimes is maybe shocking and eye-opening for them. Let them see it from that side rather than say, it's a Republican issue or it's a conservative issue. Let them understand, this is about protecting life, your life, my life, individuals' lives, and individuals' rights. So I love that. I love that idea. That's super powerful.
All right, and that leads directly into where I wanted to go with our next story. And Rob Morris, Rob is a good friend of mine. I know a good friend of yours. Rob has actually done the math on this, and we all know that guns save lives. Rob sat down, and he's a brilliant man, one of the most intelligent people I know. The guy's a nuclear physicist for Christ's sake. His math is his world, but he's done the math, and he can tell you that, and he can show the math, although it's way over my head. He can show you in the math how anti-gun laws cost lives, and he wrote a story I think showed up on AmmoLand, but where even this. The title of the story is What Joe Biden Didn't Tell Us About Guns, Serial Numbers, and the little excerpt out of that column is, of course, that isn't what President Biden said. He said it's all about guns and strange serial numbers. He didn't mention that serial numbers were not even required on firearms until 1968. Many of our classic semi-automatic handguns had been in production for almost 6 decades by then, so there are tens of millions of unserialized firearms in legal circulation. True, you can also get a government employee from the ATF to say anything the president wants him to say, but believing that a missing serial number causes crime plays us for a fool. Law enforcement sources I trust have not seen a surge of homemade and unserialized firearms causing crime. And Beth, what I'm noticing, and from the stories I'm reading, is the law enforcement, especially in California, they're when they get a firearm that has the serial number been sanded off or taken a Dremel and destroyed, they're calling that a ghost gun as well if somebody's destroyed the serial number, to try and lump it in with the homemade firearms, to try and make the problem bigger than it is. And let's face it, anytime you take a firearm out of circulation, you are lowering the ability of regular people to defend themselves, especially if you take the ability of, let's say, the lower income person to acquire their own method of defense for their family. You make it harder for them. I mean, take it from here. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's never going to cease to amaze me how often the tactic is used that we're just going to redefine things to fit the narrative. When it comes to things like ghost guns, you said it, Paul. They're doing it again. They're just using whatever fits the narrative to now present their facts on what ghost guns actually are. I think a lot of us just kind of wander around thinking, when are we actually going to have a definition that makes sense? It doesn't make sense. And I love what Rob has done with that research, showing us the truth. I mean, what did you say? It's how many guns? Millions. For 6 decades, there's millions of firearms now that are quote-unquote ghost guns, and according to their definition, those are illegal or those are criminalized. And I just find that laughable, and I find that really convenient for them, if you're anti-gun, to be able to just, hey, today, here's how we're going to define it. We're going to define it as any gun that apparently came out before 1968, any gun that a criminal uses that they're going to scratch off all the information from, but still secretly lump in these so-called handmade, secretly constructed firearms in the dark, evil basements of all these people, and say they're all the same thing and bump up the numbers. It's the same kind of thing people do when we talk about quote-unquote gun violence, and they lump in, which is unfortunate and tragic, they lump in suicide. It's the same kind of tactic. It's really unfair, and I'm glad that we got really smart individuals like Rob on our side that are, showing us truth.
Yes. PNW Woods over on the YouTube side says, common sense says let people defend themselves. In places where gun control has been implemented, it hasn't worked. Common sense would say stop doing that. Amen. That's so true. If it doesn't work, stop it, go the other direction, see if that works.
Something else that Rob said in his article, I believe he was mentioning another thing that Joe Biden wasn't talking about when we're dealing with crime or an increase in crime or whatever the statistics are showing us since his presidency. What about all of the criminals that were released during COVID? What about the decisions that were made to quote unquote, save lives by getting these folks out of the crowded areas where they might spread this terrible pandemic? And I mean, that's got to be part of a problem that nobody's considering. I actually read another article. It was talking more on a global kind of, situation rather than just United States, but we're talking about millions of prisoners over the pandemic were released worldwide. And since America maybe now doesn't have the same border control that we did maybe even 18 months ago, that concerns me that some of those people might just decide to hop on over here and wreak some havoc.
And just like, fortunately, here we have the Second Amendment. Let's not be like Ukraine and wait until Russia's at the door before we start arming. Let me get this comment in here real quick. John, over on the Facebook side, the new New York City mayor called Glocks weapons of mass destruction. Holy cow.
Wow, that's a little hyperbole, I think. I'm not really sure I would agree with that.
And he also said that this may be the real weapon of mass destruction, cashless bail reform. That it may be the real weapon of mass destruction right there. And then one more I want to mention. This one is simply self-serving on my part, simply because I am absolutely, wholeheartedly proud to be a resident of South Dakota. By luck, I was born here, okay? But I'm very proud to be a resident of South Dakota. We've got on the state, our governor, and in our legislators that are sent to Washington, D.C. to represent us. We have some very good legislators. And we have I want to be clear, this has no chance until we have a new Congress and a new president of getting passed. But Senator Rounds and Congressman Johnson have introduced a bill that it's called the Travelers Gun Rights Act. It would update federal law to allow for people that are full-time RVers or people that have multiple residential addresses to allow them to have a P.O. box or a personal mailbox, places like a UPS store address, to allow them to use that as an address when you fill out a 4473. Currently, you can't do that. You can use that for a voting address, but you can't use it for a 4473. This would allow that to happen. When you hear common sense gun law, this is the kind of thing I think of when I hear common sense gun law. And I'm proud to say that was introduced by a couple of South Dakota legislators.
Well, it's just one of those things where it adds peace of mind to those that already have a lot of, different things going on in their lives. I mean, the last thing you want to have to consider is, am I going to be punished and have my rights infringed upon because of the way I choose to live, or because of the way I am able to, have housing right now? It's comforting to know that people are considering those situations and helping those in those situations, continue to do what they would do under normal circumstances. If you lived anywhere else under quote unquote more normal circumstances, you wouldn't have these kinds of issues. So kudos to them. Very good. Yeah, and we need to see more of that.
I personally know of some people who retired and used South Dakota as their domicile simply because we have we have no state income tax. We have low taxes, period. And we have very good freedom-based laws here. And so they choose South Dakota as their home base, but they live in RVs. And I know two couples that do this. They live in RVs and they travel the United States. They just choose South Dakota as their home. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. So I wish I could do it, but I'm not that financially independent yet. So.
Well, at least you know that there's people out there hopefully trying to support those who make that choice. So, like I said, if we saw more legislation like that, I think people would be super happy and be very supportive of their representatives for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, it's just about down to the time we have, Beth. It's always a pleasure working with you, and I get to do that again this Saturday. That's right. Tony Simon and Charlie Cook are going to be on the weekend show.
That'll be awesome. They're great guys. I mean, I always love this show. I always love the conversation, but man, you put those guys in a room, it's going to be some fun. I think on Saturday I'm going to be able to introduce everybody, and then I'll sit back, and about an hour later I'll come back and say that's the time we have. So it'll be an easy day for me. Yeah, we're kind of like the wind-up toys. You just kind of do and set us out on the table and watch us go.
There you go. All right, Beth, thank you. So on the way out, anything you would like to plug, anything going on with USCCA that people need to know?
Well, always just check us out at usconcealcarry.com. Always great stories, articles, information. We're doing our best to keep up with all the great legislation that's actually rewarding to all of the permitless carry states now. So try to keep up with that. And other than that, hope to see you guys around at a training class or an event near you at some point.
Very cool. And on my end, please come join us tomorrow and Friday, 5 p.m. Central Time. And come join us Saturday at noon when Beth and Tony and Charlie will be here for the weekend edition of The Bullet. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow.